This yellow building close to the German border has been a massive headache for the Austrian government for years now. The root cause is this guy. That's a baby picture of Adolf Hitler, who was born in the 3-story building in 1889. Here's a look at the history of Hitler's home and why the Austrian government paid 800,000 euros for it. Hitler only lived in the building for 1 year and wasn't entirely fond of Braunau, the city where he was born. In fact, when he came to visit after Germany annexed Austria, he didn't even get out of his car. He stopped on the bridge to address a cheering crowd, asked his driver to momentarily stop in front of his birth home, and then he circled back to Linz. To this day, the small border town hasn't been able to get rid of its association to the Nazi leader. When Hitler's family lived in the building, the bottom floor was a pub called the Stag, while the 2 upper floors were apartments. After Hitler rose to power, the Nazi regime took over the building from the Palmer family, and it was used in propaganda. Here you'll see a picture of a Nazi postcard. Notice the flags in the sun with a swastika rising over the building? At the bottom, it says the German Chancellor Adolf Hitler's birthplace. At the time, the bottom floor was a library featuring pro-Nazi literature and some English classics like Shakespeare. The top floors at the time were art galleries. Interesting fact, Hitler's birthplace wouldn't be standing today if it weren't for American soldiers. As Allied forces invaded Nazi-controlled territory, Hitler issued the Nero Decree, which called for the destruction of all Nazi infrastructure. But when the Wehrmacht attacked Braunau, American soldiers happened to be standing in front of Hitler's birth home. In defending themselves, the US troops inadvertently defended the building, which still stands today. The building was returned to the Palmer family, and since then, it has had various uses. The Austrian government started paying rent to the owner in 1972 when a public school occupied the building. The government continued to pay from 1977 to 2011 when a charity organization set up in the building. After the group left, the government continued to pay 5,000 euros a month for an empty building. Why? Well, it's partly because officials feared someone else might turn the building into a shrine for neo-Nazis. By 2016, the government was facing pressure from the public and the media to stop paying for an empty space. So, the Austrian legislature passed a bill that allowed the government to expropriate the building, but Gerland Palmer, the owner, fought for more compensation. On June 25, 2019, Austria's highest court decided Hitler's birth home was worth exactly 812,000 euros. The government has already decided not to knock down the building and bury its dark history. So, instead, it's hosting a competition to redesign the space. What's next for the birthplace of one of the most evil men in history? Only time will tell.